It's scale, it's transparency, but also reassessment. So today I chose to use bone or leather, but I will need to come back to it and not just rest on this, this is sustainable, I'll do everything like this, and tomorrow when someone orders 100 pieces from me, I will say, yeah, this is sustainable, I'll do it like this, and there's a stamp, it's greenwashed or something. We need to place the question again.
Yes, one of the things that was coming up when I was looking into the subject is to constantly ask how much harm am I doing with this process. Okay, we are about here. So my therapist gave me a meter like this to assess myself and where I stand. So there were things like career, family, friendships, fun, hobbies. And I thought it was such a good way to try to attempt to create a meter and suggest it about sustainable making. So this is open to discussion, and these are some of the points that I thought would be good to add here. And here it is filled in for the project, the university project. So, is it pointed at me? No. With extracting, if I'm extracting new materials to make the new product, I was at about number 4, because we did buy some sheets of brass and rods. If there was no benefit from governmental policies or local services because there's no recycling being done, so we're at number 1. Reusing and recycling, number 7, but it was done with much effort from myself. Shipping, transport of materials and products, there was some. And obviously Cyprus is an island, so there will be a lot of shipping. Aesthetics maybe is a little bit more difficult to rate, but I was happy with it. Design for deconstruction, which is a little bit to imitate the way nature operates, that where the waste from one process becomes food for the next process. I think that was quite successful. There was no contribution to social structures or beneficial to minorities because I think it probably has to do with the governmental policies of local or the absence of the policies. And there was some contribution to our knowledge and awareness about how things are made and how they are decomposed. So do the members of the discussion feel that this could be applied to their practice, no matter how complicated it is? I know it's probably more complicated with architecture. And would you suggest any other to remove one or to add more points, categories? And who wants to go first?
I'll try because I'm just off the top of my head because I'm still thinking of that skyscraper made out of local know-how and local materials. No, if you were proposing that maybe some of it would be created locally.
Where you could add sustainability.
Yeah, yeah.
We can have that
So,
discussion and then move to here.
no, I'm actually thinking I was projecting that here.
Okay.
I was trying to put that here because my immediate question for that was, what if we have all of this effort, because you were mentioning Limassol, so we can put all of this effort and energy, and it would be, for example, it would give work to a lot of local people, so you would get high grades there because for justice, for a local economy, etc. So I would give it high grades there. And I was imagining that I would go through and read all of this. But in that case, the question is also, what if it stays empty? Like it is now, where is that? So I'm thinking that I know you mentioned before, maybe if I don't make it, it's better, but we say it's an impossible question, so we move on. But in the case of the building, if it stays empty, then it's even more costly environmentally and economically, because there's all of this effort.
There's also the question, what if it's made simpler? Or
Yeah, that's
not if
right.
it's not made at all?
That's
So,
right.
yes.
That's right. So I think, I mean, I just want to say that I like for example, this criteria. You put social justice there, which we didn't discuss yet. And so I wanted to also put, I was wondering as you were talking, how would I also rate this issue of the use, and so I don't know. I have to look at it again to see. But I would want to take this and insert that kind of question is there, is what I'm saying. Yeah.
So what would the question be?
Yeah, I don't know. It would be because I mean, there is, I think, yeah, let me just propose two things and we can. One, I really, I think the social justice has to be put in the conversation, in the equation, whether we are talking about a pencil holder or a building. I would put the actual use, the need for it, whether it fulfills a need or not, is something that has to be graded, which is what I was saying with the building. It has to fulfill an actual need, not an imagined need, not a. No. It has to fulfill a need. And the one thing that I would add, because I like it, so I immediately starting to think how would I add to it, is you know that recently the EU has made a law about greenwashing. They would actually penalize you if you are greenwashing. They would measure what you are doing. So if it can also guard against greenwashing, I would think that that would be something that now has to be graded. That's my two additions. Yeah. Who wants the fluffy thing?
I
Okay.
have nothing for now. No, I'm still thinking. I think I'm covered by the rating. Yes.
I don't know. I'm honestly thinking as well. I think one aspect would be material appreciation, because one of the biggest problems of waste today, I think the historically, it's the idea of mass production and the fact that we lost um, our ability to appreciate the material. John Ruskin said that when we, as a philosopher, when we initially started having the mass production, the idea of mass production, and the fact that we will lose the appreciation to the material. I think that's probably another meter that you could add, which I think it's crucial, because I think we need to go back over the fact that we need to reappreciate the material. One of the things that I have, for example, it's plastic. It's a very, as a material, everybody believes that it's a material that it's not of a quality, it's not wood, it's not, but in reality, it's a very good material. That's why we use it. So maybe I would also add appreciating the material, the essence of material.
Okay, I would like to open the discussion to to the audience as well. Is there something you would like to add? Nina and Thomas helped me to compose this in the first place. So the social, the beneficial to minorities is their contribution, I should say, yes?
Um, well, yeah, this is really good, and we should use it uh, for our work. I would maybe connect the kind of waste side of an object. So design for reconstruction, deconstruction is great. I would put also if when it becomes waste, if it's non-waste, if it's recyclable, reusable, and all this together, just to add a transparency section by its own. So if it's transparent throughout, from sourcing, production, selling, using, and when it becomes kind of a waste. So when it's all transparent, there is less danger for greenwashing, which is a trap that's everywhere, and people can make their own decisions because it's so different what is sustainable, and there's so many things that can be sustainable.
Okay, Maria. Να το φέρνω και από εδώ, φαντάζομαι.
Hi, and thank you for your beautiful discussion. It's been, I've been sitting here and it's constantly, my brain is buzzing and like it's really hard. Yeah. On the topic of on this map, I had some ideas that were coming in mind constantly while you were all talking, and it's lovely to see extractivism in general, so having negative connotations in. So I was thinking, what about banality within? There's aesthetics somewhere, but I cannot see it because there's people in front. So yeah, I think aesthetics is very interesting because the notions that are cultural and also to each person to their own about banality and kitschiness and cliche really affects the people in Cyprus, and also the perception of identity, whether that relates to your grandma's commodon, therefore you're not going to use it for yourself. It's something interesting. I would like to see something about the market niche for a product. I would like to see it on the map because you could be creating something amazingly beautiful, but you have spent a lot of time to create it. Therefore, your person hours need to be replenished in one way or another, relating to not only the sustainability practice meter in general of the object, but the sustainability of the maker that creates it. So it goes back to the question whether you have created one object that costs 1 million or whether you created a million objects that cost €1 each. And we know that both sides of that coin are not beneficial to anyone. So I'm interested about this analogy that can create. And I would love to see the emerging of social structures with the benefits. So because it includes so many layers, having its social benefit, and then include all this governmental policies, local services, beneficial to minorities, because when you need to see social benefits, then you can see your societal benefits more holistically. So maybe it pushes the maker to have some thoughts. That's from me.
Hello. I think another important factor of considering will be product longevity. As long as we use a product, that means uh, we have less possibilities for actually discarding the product itself. So I think that's a very important part of if a product is sustainable or not. Regarding what Mino said about aesthetics, I think that's a very, very important factor because I believe that aesthetics, even though that, it might not be considered as a factor regarding sustainability, but I believe that aesthetics make and add value, to a product. That means, we create a much more deep relationship with it. And also some other factors that we can consider about is psychological factors, I think. Not only materiality, but also psychological factors are very important. In what way, for instance, there is a part that we may call superfunctional needs, meaning that when we actually buy a product, definitely functionality is crucial. However, when we build a relationship with the product. However, we have to find ways how to engage the user to create much more meaningful relationships with it. And a part of it could be through a psychological addition that, I don't know, maybe layering the design of a product. Yes, you could say that, yes.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. This it's a really incredible discussion, and a little bit the imposter in the room. But but looking at this though, this is it's a really kind of lovely mapping of I think a very dynamic process. And as your presentations were happening, the other thing that I could think about was what is the responsibility of state authorities, and I see here that it's part of it. So benefit from governmental policies. And then contribution to knowledge just seems to be kind of the further part of what it is that is produced. And the social structures, contribution to social structures, what I kind of see as an umbrella action, potential action to sustainable practice is advocacy. So as creators produce, as creators create prototypes, sustainable practices, and these types of things, then how is it that the state can be helped? And we all know that the help is needed, but through this experience, like the lived experience, the practiced experience, to become new policy on the municipal level, and then of course on the state level, and also on the European level. These things are happening in the EU, and we're very quite distant from them. So yeah, I'm wondering if advocacy as an action can be part of this work. And also, if someone can help me to find Gangelli from my house that can be repurposed, I would be very grateful. Thank you. Thank you. Here. Proximity.
I have a question on the products design from the recycled materials. All the products that you chose to make were very specific products. So, for example, it was a light fixture, or it was a flower holder, or something like that. So it's a very specific function, which I think makes them less sustainable on the long run. So I was wondering if you thought maybe a different approach that didn't reflect so much the maker's point of view of aesthetics. For example, it could be a building block. So you could have multiple building blocks. Some could be light fixtures, some could be flower holders. And maybe I, as a consumer, could buy the building blocks to make a table, to make a library. And that would make it easier to source material. So I was just wondering, what's your rationale behind choosing so specific end products?
How many people have comments? Except from Alexander? We'll hear Alexander's. Or let me answer then, and then we'll go back to them. I was asked to make corporate gifts. The way I understand them is that you have many of the same things. So I didn't question the fact that they should all be uniform, and I think there is also some. Basically, the fact that we were not going to suggest markers or key rings or tote bags or a packet of Post-its as corporate gifts was enough for me, that it could be something else. But I'm not sure whether I would add the factor of the person interacting with the product to turn it into something else, because then we're sort of stepping into an art product rather than a product. We can discuss a lot more.
Going back to the circle, if possible, I guess it can take different forms according to the use. But one thing very simple that maybe I don't understand it very well is the waste produced. I mean, as creators, is maybe similar to what you said before. It's really important, and that's something that bothers me also, to map down the waste you produce on the creating and constructing phase of what you're making.
Not of the final product, but why the research? Okay.
I mean, it can be through the life cycle in general. Yes.
Hello, I'm Marina. I would add to this map the cost, because I think that cost is very important everywhere for many reasons. So one is the cost. Another one factor is the quality of something that we make. And another one is the carbon footprint. So I will not say a lot. Yes.
Carbon footprint is in shipping, transport, so that could we could add that there.
Yeah, it depends on the product. Yes.
Everybody wants a piece of the pie.
In the cost, I think it would I would add within the cost proximity to knowledge and the material, and within the cost to have the social cost of it's a bit philosophical again. It's my life. My dad hates it, and maybe that's why it gets amplified. Anyway, the idea of the knowledge and the proximity of knowledge being lost. For example, for the animal glue, 50 years ago, Cypriot shoemakers used to make glue from avroshilla, which is a root. So starchy things can make also glue, and you don't need to but the proximity to knowledge, when it disappears, so having in mind the proximity to the material, so going against extractivism by going close to the material or having a material that is close to you being used, you are careful of your CO2, you're careful of your cost, and also you get what is available within your surrounding. Also, the knowledge of how to use that material, again, proximity to knowledge, helps you reinstate knowledge that might disappear. That's why I'm using cost and proximity as a metaphor, because a lot of the information that we have in our heritage is being completely, it disappears, but we are in real proximity, like our dad, our grandpa, our grandma might have it, and we don't even go to ask our grandparents about this information, but we're ready to go on Google for the information. Just a side note. Anyway.
I will add something. Last thing. a similar game that I played, close to this sort of subject matter, but not necessarily to do with sustainability. When all of this graph was finalized, another addition that you could enter to complicate things even more, if you like, is to sort of trace it towards you personally. So you start locally where you're based, and then you go nationally, regionally, globally, and then you even exit the globe, and then you can really take it far. So it's something interesting to do as everything is sort of completed. Yes. Yes.
Okay, does anybody have anything to add?
The cost could be part of the social structures as a subject of like intersectional accessibility. If it's the cost is like, is it elitist or can everyone get it if they need it? And according to everyone's abilities, can they use it? If someone cannot see well, are the fonts big enough? Or vegans, can they use it? So that it doesn't discriminate.
We need to definitely revisit it after this. Okay.
Just say one thing because thanks. Sorry, I made you get up. Um, what was mentioned by Marius, I think, the proximity to local knowledge is the intangible heritage, because you mentioned earlier the issues of heritage. There's also intangible heritage that could indeed. So it's a minor comment that I have. And as far as the contribution to knowledge, I noted something that Andreas mentioned before that we didn't get to discuss a lot, the need for downscaling. And I wonder if that contribution to knowledge could have different kind of aspects. So if you contribute something to an effort of downscaling, for example, it could be one such thing. If you contribute something to reusability or deconstruction, etc., that could. Thanks.
Also, I have one idea that you were talking about the tools. So I'm thinking lots about the tools, and the objects in my perspective often they are end product of using the tools. And so now most of the tools what we are using are products of industrial revolution. My question is that do we have the right tools to fix the problems of industrial revolution? Because we're kind of like putting potatoes in the land with the tanks. Do you understand what I mean? Do we have the right tools? Should we? It's like wrong to. Yeah. So.
Because Greta was talking about sustainable tanks the other day.
Okay. Okay, but could we also go back in the time and see what were the tools before the Industrial Revolution and think, is there anything that we could bring here and see if there is ways of solving the problems? Because many times, for example, you said with the materials that it's easier and more beneficial to use things that are in the market, so they're square. So also our tools are built in square. Everything's built in square. But are our problems still in the same faction? Because I think the industrial revolution tools are built for maximum profit, and we would like to downscale. So maybe they're not the right tools.
And I think one very big issue is that the offcuts are not square anymore.
This I don't know.
Okay. They're still flat, yeah.
But that was the thing. Anyway, maybe there's something.
You can't avoid, I mean, as an architect, I've studied architecture, you can't avoid some thinking around the subject and also the discussion that Michalis had, a very good example about the idea of tools and how the material shaped the tools is the Japanese traditional architecture. And if you actually read a book about this thing, you will realize that the technicians, the great masters of making the buildings, they were making, according to the knowledge they took from the material, their own tools that would fit their own hands. So in a way, I think there is a magic that we are losing when we are working with a material downscaled on what tools we can make. And I think that is very crucial. It's a magic that is lost. And because we are using this, even the digital means, the digital technologies, they are taking away this magic. Sometimes I get myself thinking when I'm working with only the materials and my hand and maybe a piece of steel or a piece of, and I think here there is a gap that we need to fill to go back to a more sustainable future. And I think it's very, very important.
I will disagree a bit. I think digital tools somehow and the maker spaces, right, brought us closer to the materials. Okay, I think we've been detached from the material for some time, as architects being detached from the construction. And I think digital tools actually make exactly what you said. I mean, it's one of the spaces that you can make tools nowadays.
Yeah.
Right? So, and I think some of the examples that I mentioned earlier was exactly that. So we did make custom digital tools to enhance the process and make it somehow more sustainable. So I think it's one of the domains, I don't know if I became very specific here, but I think it's one of the domains that brought us closer to sustainability, closer to material, and potentially helped us to make tools to make things more efficient, more optimized, and essentially more sustainable.
Because we shouldn't forget the digital tools. Yes, and placement of the components and all that. In my experience, I realized that you need a lot more time to take care of the material and the shape, so as to have less waste. But then we could have some digital tools to cater for that. All right, I think the paper should be titled "Back to the Future." Okay, does anybody else have anything?
Thank you. So I'm here by chance today. I didn't even know what was the subject about. Really, a friend invited me. Well, my name is Philip Moderator. I work in fashion. And I'm very much linked with Thomas and his partner because recently I did a series of documentaries following Cypriot artisans who create wonderful things made of wood, clay, and so on. I have some notes after listening to the conversation, which was very interesting, I must admit. I feel that Cypriots are really disconnected with their heritage. And this is something that I can, let's say, push as my opinion after following them for a while. And if they want to be connected, they always try to do it individually. And this is much harder to pass the message further. And there's got to be an encouragement in order to succeed. And I feel that the governments will be the last ones to notice. There's so much bureaucracy until the message goes through, and it's much easier for the craftsmen and artisans to collaborate with people who can produce materials that can enrich the idea of sustainability through technology, like you. So I think that there's got to be a marriage between the two. But first and foremost, we need to know where we come from. If we don't know where we come from, we cannot really move forward. So Back to the Future is actually a very accurate title. So following Thomas making this fini chair, which was a wonderful experience for me to do so, following him in the forest, to find a specific piece of wood, to work with it and create something that would last for a lifetime, it was really an eye-opener for me. So I think that if Thomas works with someone who is linked to technology, I think there's miracles to achieve. Well, yes. In the process, I learned about another person, Pambos Savidis, who was a furniture maker, a Cypriot furniture maker. Most people didn't know, I didn't know who he was, until I saw his work through the archives that his family has kept. So Pambos was a modernist and someone who created furniture that were inspired by the French Louis XV period and so on. However, he was someone that appreciated very, very much the Cypriot heritage. And his thesis at the university that got him a degree with honors was on Cyprus crafts and especially furniture. And I promise that if you see how rich the Cyprus heritage is in terms of furniture and wood carving, I'm sure it would create an interest so that we do something about to save it, to preserve it, and teach it at schools. So I think it's a matter of collaboration between the past, the present, and the future, and then perhaps the governments will, their eye will sweat and pay attention. But it will start from us, not from them. Yeah, this is what I had to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The good things usually start from us rather than the governments. Okay, I think there's no way to keep this going. It was very fruitful. Yeah.
Actually, I want to ask the creators, the designers of these products and buildings. As a client, what I am buying when I'm buying an apartment in a tower in Limassol, which is made with sustainable process or materials, or as the man here says. And also the makers of the pots that the pots, the flower pots that they showed before. Am I buying the process, the sustainable process, or am I buying the opportunity to have a sustainable life circle? I don't know if I am not good in English, so I can't express exactly as I imagine the question. But for me, it seems like if I am buying this very minimal pot, very good-looking pot, after 10 years, when I'm not even interested in this design, this aesthetic, this pot is going to be on a skip, maybe. So where is the sustainability for the whole?
You can give it to somebody to sell for iron. Or you could even throw it in the backyard and it will rust into the the earth again. I think this is exactly what the point is with these things. They biodegrade and they can go back to where they came from.
So the design consists of this part.
Yes, the end of life of the product is incorporated in the design.
Is that then upcycling or downcycling? If in the end you sell it for melting. So the dynamics, I'm just thinking that the dynamics of upcycling, maybe that's one of the things, just like we said, we have to think of downscaling. Maybe we have to think of the dynamics of upcycling and downcycling.
Definitely, we have to think of this being reused in locally. Because it was probably extracted from somewhere else. It came to Cyprus in an I-beam formation. But it's not very sustainable to ship it again somewhere else. Okay. What is he buying when he buys an apartment on a tower in Limassol?
I never said that they are sustainable.
Okay. If you want to know on sustainability, come to Limas. All right. I think we can wrap this up. I was very happy because the way we discussed this did include the Sustainable Development Goals of EU. And this would be the next step in it to incorporate them, and all the discussion that happened did include all this, and also the sustainability when it comes to the less fortunate people or the minorities. Yes, even this came, Teresa. I did Google if we can send all the trash to the sun, and we cannot. Because it's very expensive. So we really need to plan for the end of life to be added into the design process. And yeah, that's all. Thank you very much, Maria, and Stella, and everybody.